Okay, so started. So let me just do like a 60 seconds recap. So what we've done from our code, we created a class, which is our model. That's what we're going to be passing around. So model is similar to entity. It's similar to what you can call the main player in this old software. So, and then we created a controller for it that, excuse me, that controller inherited from the base controller. It's called a to-do controller. We put an annotation on top of it as an API controller. We gave it a route. This represents the controller name, right? This API slash controller name, whatever the controller name is. And we said this should produce application slash JSON. What we mean, the output should be a JSON. The method should be a get. And then we created a method that will get all the to-dos, that will return a list of to-dos, right? And then the list of to-dos, we created 3 of them and added it to the list and return it. Not more than this. Now, what I didn't have the other time is in the startup, because we're using that controller annotation. We needed to add it to, so in the startup, there are 2 methods. There's a configure and there's a configure services. Now, I can't go into the details of this dependency injection because you might not really get it on time. So, but it's something, a topic we'll treat another day. But then you just need to come in here and add the controllers, and then app.use endpoints. Which endpoints do you want to use? Endpoints that map to controllers. So I think these are the 2 things that wasn't there before we went on break. This line and this line. Are we together? So in configure services and configure method of the startup, this is where you do injection, when you want to put things in the middle. Sorry, put things at the beginning. So when we are startup, you want to configure anything from the start of the program. Once, because if you look at the program.cs, see what the program.cs does. It does a create host builder, and then it runs it. And then this is the create host builder. This main is calling this guy. And look at what this guy is doing. I mean, this is high level. I know you don't like understand, what's inside all of them, but just follow me. This is the main class. This is where the program begins to run. And the first thing it does is to create host builder, calls this method. Now, this is the method it calls. When this guy is about to create the host builder, this guy calls this operation, which then configure a web host builder, and the web host builder now use the startup. So this is actually where I'm going. Use startup. Can you see the name of the class there? Startup. So that's the flow. So it comes from here, goes in here, then this guy goes in here. So in the startup now, this is the startup class. So everything you configure here, it will now use it to start the application. So this is what we didn't have the other time, add controllers and then this endpoint. So I've added them. So if you then, so now we can call our API now. So I run the API, I run the project, and then while it's running, okay, I think it's just a bit slow. How many instances do I have open? Okay, so right now it's running. Let me show you what. So when it ran, I've removed the default hello world that was there before. So right now we're going to be getting a 404 on this landing page because nothing was mapped to it. But by the time I put in my own route /API /to-do, now mind you, every time I put in a get, every time I hit a browser, I'm sending a get request. That's what I wanted to say. So see what happened. Can you see my to-do list coming out of here? Are you with me?
Yes. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Let me use Postman so that it's a bit clearer. So what did I call for the hosts, the ports, the API, and the to-do? And then I have all my to-dos there. Oh, see, I give them the same ID and the same title. That's beans, Abby. So I'm gonna go correct that. But my point is, this guy has returned a list of to-do. So imagine this list of to-do could be coming from a database. It could be coming from maybe somebody's trying to add an item to the cart, you know, a number of things where you're going to make use of this. So this is a list of to do. And if you see the status, can you see the error code? 200. Now, why did I get a 200? I got a 200 because 200 is the default successful code. So I can now decide to put in a code 201 instead of a 200 if I was creating. But in this case, I'm getting. Are we together? And if you look at my date created and date updated, it's just the current date time, you know, that I just put there for me. So ideally, you know, is date created is like a one-time thing you just put in the database. Every time you keep retrieving it, so it won't be changing. But in this our case, we said it should be datetime.now. So .now we always give you the current date time. So this is me. So what we've done now, let me tell you, is what you will do for the next foreseeable future as a developer. You build a lot of APIs. So this is a simple API, is a get, and then it is, so we're just going to do the post as well. Are we together? Hello?
Yeah, we're together.
All right. So I'll just create a new method for the post, and it's just going to be a public method as well. Public is going to return, what should we return in this case? I think we should return something called an I action result. You know, it's just going to be the error code only that we're returning. And then the method will be create to do. So, and in my create to do, right? So now when I say create to do, think about what will happen here. If I want to create something, am I not going to have the details of what I want to create? Definitely I will. So this create to do will take in a to do object, to do T. And then what will it do to, so let me do some refactoring here. Maybe right here outside my class, I can put this guy in here. And so I'm not going to do this in my to do. I'm going to do them outside, right? So, and then what I would then do is, so I'm just creating a list here. I'm going to leave the 3 items that are in this list already. I will leave them. What's going on? Did I copy this? Control. Okay, so let me remove all this since I have them outside there already. So if you see what I'm doing now, so I have my empty list here, and then I have 3 different to-do objects. So when I did my gets, I'm just going to, let me add these guys outside, Control X, and put them here. So within my gets, the only thing I'm doing now is I'm just returning the to-do that I have created. Okay, 1 minute. There might be something. Okay, yeah, I get what I need to do. So these 3 guys are together, and I just moved it outside. so that I can use add to this guy. That's my plan. So remember that I have 3 items in this to do at this stage. To do's. So I have 3 items by default, and I'm just going to call all of them here to do's dot add to do one. So I'm trying to arrive at something that is independent of each other. So to do one, to do two, to do three. Now, what I'm now going to do in my create to do is that I'm going to take in my.
I got thrown out. I think I'm lost.
Oh, okay.
When I left, the to-dos were still on that.
Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'll take them back so that I don't. No, it's fine. I mean, we're learning here. All right, so but I don't want to create another to do. That's what I'm trying not to do. But it's fine because I defined this inside here, right? So, and that's what I want to move out and then move it somewhere else, right? That's my goal. If I move it somewhere else, I can now say that my to-dos, which is hop dot add, and I can add this guy in my create. So if you see what's going on here now, this place is empty. Every time I call the gets, it's going to add these 3. Are you guys following me? Add these 3 guys to this list and then return the list. So get will always return 3 items for me. But when I call the post, the create we take in this list, which is still empty, right? I want you to get what I'm saying. So ignore this guy. This is an empty list. In my create, it will pick this guy and then add this new one to it. So when it does this, I can now say it should return maybe okay. Now, I'm doing something that is very simple here. I'm adding every new to-do list to a new to an empty list. So, but that's not my goal. My goal is that but because we're not saving this anywhere, so of course it will be lost all the time we restart the application. But it's still a bit different from where we were coming from, you know, in the console. So to do 1, to do 2, to do 3. I said I was going to rename that third, and then second and first. What about the title? I think everything is correct now. So let me change one of them to true. Just for. All right. So now I just created. Now this iAction result is just a contract that represents is an interface. So I've not explained interface to us, but for now, let me just say when you want to return just code, just HTTP code only, then you use this guy. Let's put it that way. So if you want to return HTTP code, you can return bad request. Can you see what I'm saying? You can return bad request. Are you guys following me? So yeah. If I return bad request, the user will get a 404. Sorry, a 400, I mean. The user will get a 400 because that's what I'm returning for him. But I will not return that. I will return okay because there is nothing that went wrong. So remember the try catch that we did. So I can do a try catch here and say if this addition was successful, return okay. If it wasn't successful, return a bad request.
How do you, sorry, yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
How do you differentiate between okay, get all resources and okay, created new resource? is there a place does this OK action result accept like status code, or how do you tell like that this was like a post
Yeah,
to maybe your client or something?
Yeah, it has an overload. So if you look at this OK now, if I mouse over it, if you can see my screen, you see create an OK object that produces an empty status code 200, right? So if you don't want a 200, you can put in HTTP status created. Let me do status created. Status code docs. So I have bad request came in here. So I have, so these are like objects. So you can do bad requests. You know, bad requests will automatically be a 400. You can do created. Yeah, there's created. Created is your 201. Are you with me?
Okay.
You can have OK. OK is your 200. You can have internal server error, and that's HTTP status code. Let me see if I can access it from here. Status code dots. So if I say should return OK, and then I can put a status code that I want if I don't want that default. But you are the one determining what you want to give out based on the standard. Do you understand? If the request was successful, you want to return a 200 by standard. So it's not anybody determined. You are the developer. You are the one building the software. So if you feel that the request they are giving you is not correct, maybe you do a check that is this object a to-do class and is not a to-do. So let's do something like this. If type of T is not, if type of T is not to do, so in other words, I'm trying to do a check and say that if what you are giving me is not a to do, well, I'll have to suppress a, or let me say, because we've not been interacting with a lot of things, ideally, we want to put this in a database, so we'll check if the database operation was successful, then we return a OK. If it wasn't successful, then we return. So let me do a try catch just for return. So after my return bad request, yeah, I think this explains what I'm trying to do better. So today, do you get what is going on here now?
Yeah, I do.
So I'm trying to add this to do. I'm trying to add anything new you gave me. I want to add it to this list. If I'm able to do that successfully, I'll return OK. If not, let's say an exception occurred, then I'll catch the exception. I'll store the exception in one variable. So this will be so that I can log it, and then I'll return a bad request. So take this from me as an example. So I come in there.
I have another question.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. So my second question is, in case, I don't want to assume, so I'm just thinking, if somebody is trying to make a post request to this endpoint, and the parameters person is sending, like in the request body, doesn't directly map to the properties that we've set in the to-do model. So for example, maybe we specified status as Boolean, and person sends a string. Does it automatically enter the catch, or how do we, like, how is it done here?
That's a fantastic question, and I like that, and I'm just going to demonstrate that straight up, right? So we have a to-do object that would have all this. Now, if you there are some things you can do on your to-do objects. You can mark, you can annotate different fields. For instance, I'm going to mark the ID as required. Are you with me? So I'm saying that this, on top of this field of ID, I'm saying is required. Just watch what will happen now. And then what can I make required again? Title. Then, so those two things are required. Tunde, are you following me?
Yeah.
So when I make these two fields required, and then I'll start my API, then I'll go try and pass something that doesn't have those things. So I'm going back to my postman, and then I do my get. My get returns still loading. Is there a breakpoint? Do we have one? No. Okay, yeah. So my get returns my 3 IDs. Are we together? So now I'm going to create another, let me save this, and then I'll create another request, which is going to be a post. And then I'm getting my URL here. So we did not put any special route on that guy. We just said if it's a post. We just said if it's a post. Now, one thing we didn't do, sorry, I forgot to do something. And that's important. I'm supposed to specify where I want to take this guy, this to do. So I'm going to take this guy in my body. I have to specify this guy in my body. There's an action for that.
I think it's from body also.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to recall from body. Yeah, you're right. From, I think he has an attribute like this also.
You wrap it around square braces.
From body.
No space.
Nope.
Capital letter F.
From body. Is it the correct attribute? Specify that a parameter should be bound. Yep, correct. So I didn't specify that. So I'm just gonna go back and try to run my. You see, you get so used to this thing that you might not even, like, I can't remember the last time I'm creating a route. What am I creating a route for? Most of the time you've done that, like maybe when you are starting the project 6 years ago. Okay, so I'm going back to Postman. So what I want to try to do now is to send a post request to this guy. So first of all, let's send a post request without, so we got unsupported media type, status 415. So I think we didn't pass the kind of media type we want to pass. We want it to take, which is supposed to be an application JSON. I think that's like accept. So I'm going to come get this produces as well, and then put it in here. I think there's an annotation for accept too. So let me send that again. So this 415 is coming from .NET Core, not from me. Okay, I'm still getting a 415. Let me see. So I'm going to put binary, no, raw, and it's supposed to be this. And this is just an empty request. Great. Now, if you look at this error, can you see the code? Bad request. Now, the error message says that a non-empty request body is required. Do you know where this error came from? It came from my annotation. This one. Where is it? The to-do annotation. It came from here. Are you guys with me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Because these two things are required. So if
Yeah.
I come and build, so I'm going to build a JSON. So you are building your JSON request now. So when you're building your JSON request, you start with this, you do this, you call it ID, and then you define this, and then ID is integer, right? Then you say 4. Are we together? That's your JSON request that you are building. So this is the way you build your JSON request. ID is 4. What else? Title. Title is a string. 4 to do. I hope we are following me. I hope it's not getting too much today. So these are the only 2 required things. Did you see what just happened? That when I sent only the 2 that were required, I got a 200. And if you want to prove that I got a 200, let me show you. If I come here, right now that the program is running, I can go to immediate window and call, do I have to do there? I can go to my controller. Let me see if I can get the stacks. Because I didn't set a breakpoint, but what I just wanted to show you here was that if I mouse over my to-do now, if I was in debug mode, you will see that my to-do will now contain 1 item from what I created. So let's do it this way. We're going to put a breakpoint on our. We're going to put a breakpoint here, right? And then we'll run this. We'll run this. Okay, so I have this. So I'll run the gets, right? The get will always show me 3 because remember that it was an empty list, and then so in my get now, as at this line, the to-do count, can you see the count? Is 0. So when I got into this place, I created, the 3 to do, added them and returned them. And that's why we have 3. That's why we have 3 to-do lists showing up here. If I go to my post, right, and I send this, it hits my breakpoint again. As at this place, my to-do is also, the count is also 0. The count is 0. Then I come here, and then, can you see what happened? See, 4 and then false. Every other thing is not, because they're not required. And then he had my this is the new to do that I sent. Can you see 4 to do? And then he added it to this place and returned okay. So nothing happened. That's why it didn't give me a bad request. So let's try and do something that can trigger a bad request. So let's say we do maybe like what can we call it? Let's call it nonsense, right? And then we just add nonsense to it. Now, this was never part of the parameter. I just created it out of the blues. If I send it, it hits my breakpoint. It steps over and then come in here. Okay, it's still going to give me an okay because the mapping I did is not so in JSON, if it doesn't find it, then he ignores it, that it's not there. He ignores it because it doesn't say. I'm trying to create an exception scenario whereby this addition to list doesn't work, and then it blows up and then catches an exception for me. So let me do something that can be very stupid here. Let me do, so let's say, let me do a cast. Let me cast this small letter t to an integer. I just want to do something that will blow up.
So what if you put under the title, you write numbers rather than strings? Would it return an error?
Numbers rather than string. That makes sense.
Defined to be string and it's required.
Let's give that a shot. You're correct. Because it's going to try to convert my number to string. And then let me see if, I think that should blow up. That should throw an exception. So I just wanted something that throws an exception so that we can see how we return a bad request. Okay. So my list of to-dos, let me just even put the breakpoint on this my track. So I can just continue. Okay. The JSON value could not be converted to system string. Makes sense. So, and this is a bad request. So this also didn't happen where I wanted it to happen. It happened at the point of creating the model because it couldn't convert. I thought he's going to try and say, can I convert this 6768 into a string? And then it's going to fail and then give you this exception. So this is somebody not following your documentation. They will always get a 400 bad request. Was it actually a bad request? Did you say that it was a bad request? Because what you are giving is, so when you build the API, when you finish building it, you will create a documentation and say, pass ID, it should be integer, pass title, it should be string, pass this. So if somebody follows that your documentation correctly, then they will be able to call your API. And then that way you won't be bothered if they are getting bad requests because they are passing the wrong thing. So if I send this should be successful. Okay, I haven't removed the title, that's bad. Title 4. Okay, so I'm running out of time. So I do my try catch again, and then now we haven't done anything complex yet. What we've done, let me just do a recap so that's I have like 5 minutes on the recording. So what we've done is quite straightforward. We created a new API project. We created our model, which is our to-do. You can have many models. You can have 1,000 models. You can have hundreds of them, depending on how complex your API is. So, and then we created a controller. You can have plenty controllers as well, because you can have /to-do, /go, /com, /buy, /add to cart, a lot of things. So we created that, we started it up, we did a get operation, right? We did a post operation. So those two things that we did, and then we call the API from Postman. You can also call it directly from the browser for the get. You can't do a post from the browser. So if you do a get from the browser, you will just be able to retrieve. So by default, anything going from the browser is a get. So plus, okay, so this, right. So you do it from the browser and you were able to retrieve, all your details. So what the next set of things we're going to do this week. So I'll create a project for this. When I create a project for this, I'll put it on GitHub and then I'll invite all of you to the project. And then I'll give you task. So somebody will do the deletes. I will refactor it a bit so that it will be easier for people to work together. Somebody we can even store the list maybe inside a file or something. So somebody will do a delete, somebody will do an update. Somebody will do an update, somebody will do a delete. And then somebody will add a database to this. Maybe I would do that. That's others path. I'll do that so that we can, connect this into a database ultimately. That's our goal. So our goal is that we can put our to-do in a database so that every time we call it, our to-do will be in the, and then you can now have your table. So, and that will be the way I will introduce us to SQL. Now, have we seen the need for a database? Because we can't be running, when you run the program, you had everything you had, by the time you stop the program is gone. So we have to persist our data. But I didn't want us to go to database if we haven't, done some things around APIs. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll be expanding this API. I'll put it in the public GitHub repository and then invite you guys. And then we can do some tasking, and then everybody will work on their own branches, then we merge it together. So by Saturday, probably we should connect this to a database. We should start reading and writing to database. And then by that time, then we had a Swagger, make a documentation page for it. And then you can give APIs to people to call. Anybody building a mobile app can use your API to connect, and then so that your to-do list can be showing on your smartwatch or anything. So, and then we now go to, deploying the API, hosting it on a web server, putting it on AWS. And, that's the development career that it has started non-year. But does this make sense to us? I need feedback from everybody before I end this recording. Did I lose anybody on the way? Maureen, did I lose you? And at what point? Oh, I got thrown out. I'm just reading a message. She's actually not with us. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, you're back.
Yeah, you lost me because my connection went off. So I just don't know how you were able to call the post.
The posts. Okay. Let me show you my postman. Okay. Can you see my postman? So when you're calling the post, you're going to pass.
No, I'm not seeing your postman yet. I'm still seeing the web browser for the get. Okay, now I'm seeing your postman.
Okay. That means there's a bit of bandwidth things there. Okay, so if you want to post, what are you going to send? You're going to send an object of to do. So an object of to do, we have an ID, it will have a title, it will have a description. So you put all those values there, dates created, all the correct values for the to do. And the moment you do that, and your object is correct, and you do your send, you get a 200.